Hello, Professor Wallacourt. I hope that you are doing well. I'm going to do my final federal agency presentation for you today. And I'm going to do the Internal Revenue Service, or the IRS. So let's get started. First, I'll talk about why I wanted to do the IRS in the first place. One of the reasons was that I want to be a CPA, and so understanding how the IRS operates and what it does will be a huge part of my job someday. So I think it's really important that I learn a little bit more about who the IRS is and how it works. Another reason that I want to study the IRS was that it has some interesting historical parts to it, and a little bit of politicalness to it as well, which I find interesting as well. And also, I think that it's funny that the IRS is the only federal agency that has a positive effect on the federal the government deficit on the budget, which is kind of interesting as well, because all the other government agencies spend money, but the IRS actually takes in money to the point that they spent 34 cents for every $100 that they collected, which is not too bad to be taking in, to only be spending 0.34%. So first I'll talk a little bit about the history of the IRS and where it came from. So it didn't really exist until 1862 was actually during the Civil War. President Lincoln established a commissioner of internal revenue, which basically made a tax for the people in the Union in order to help pay for the war. And then after the war, it was abolished, and it was never used for a couple decades until 1913. The 16th Amendment of the Constitution was ratified, which allowed Congress to impose a tax on income. And it was originally called the Bureau of Internal Revenue, which was renamed in 1953 the Internal Revenue Service. But I thought it was interesting that it hasn't existed it only existed beginning in 1913 because of the 16th Amendment. So for a majority of America's history, they didn't even have the IRS in the first place, which I think is kind of neat. It's too bad that we have it now, but it's become a part of life, and that's okay. So then I thought that was kind of a good history overview. I also found the IRS strategic plan, and basically what their different objectives are that they have posted on their website. So I'm going to go through those objectives, and I think it just gives a good outline of what the IRS is and how it functions. So they have 6 objectives: protect the integrity of the tax system, empower and enable all taxpayers, drive increased agility, efficiency, effectiveness, and security, and collaborate with external partners, cultivate a well-equipped, diverse, flexible, and engaged workforce, and advance data access, usability, and analytics. So that's like the core strategic plan of the IRS for the years 2018 to 2022. So I'll first talk about protect the integrity of the tax system. I really liked this one because they talked about identifying and finding risks in a proactive manner, in the sense that they're going out and trying to figure out ways that they could be compromised proactively. Reduce the time between filing and compliance issue resolution to try and make things more efficient and better for the average taxpayer. Another thing that the IRS has under protect the integrity of the tax system is match potential compliance issues to the most appropriate solution. So just trying to make sure that when there are issues, that they're matched to the correct solution as quickly as possible. Is kind of neat as well. And then the final part of that, which I think is the most important part of protect the integrity of the tax system, is investigate criminal violations of the tax code to enforce accountability and maximize deterrence, which is a super important part of the IRS, because if you're not able to make people pay, then nobody's really going to pay at all. So it is important that they're able to investigate the criminal violations of the tax code in order to take in the revenue that they're supposed to take in according to the law. The second part of the strategic plan was empower and enable all taxpayers. This basically talks about simplify the process of filing, correction, and payment for all taxpayers and their representatives. I found that point a little bit ironic because I don't think that it's very simple at all. It's extremely complex, which is why we have CPAs, hopefully such as myself, that have to go to school for 4 years and then study for a huge 4-part test. That's extremely difficult. And will have to do continuing education to stay up to date with the different changes that are happening, because it's just not very simple. But that is part of their strategic plan. So maybe in the future it will become more simple. I know with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, that did help make things more simple for the IRS. But I still think it could use a lot more simplification. Some more under empower and enable all taxpayers was help taxpayers understand their rights and responsibilities through proactive education and tailored outreach, which I think is kind of cool that they want taxpayers to understand how they're supposed to pay and how the IRS is supposed to function. One final point under empower and enable taxpayers was expand secure digital options for taxpayers and professionals to interact effectively with the IRS, which I think is really important, especially in this day and age, since everything needs to be digital now in order to be safe. So it's important that they're doing that, I guess, during these times. The third point that they talked about in their strategic plan was drive increased agility, efficiency, effectiveness, and security, which I think kind of goes along with protect the integrity of the tax system. But they're talking about modernize and integrate technologies and systems that support secure, flexible, and accurate work across IRS functions. So basically, they really want to make the system work well and work efficiently. I'm not so sure that they've been super successful with that, but that is one of their main goals. Another goal that they have under there is maintain a strong focus on fiscal management and accountability, which I think is interesting as well, since fiscal accountability is not really a phrase in the federal government that is talked about enough or cared about enough, in my opinion. But that may be a conversation for another day. Another part of their strategic plan was collaborate with external partners. So that's basically coordinate with the tax community to facilitate service and outreach to taxpayers. So that'd be a lot of working with firms and stuff that collect for the IRS, such as private CPA firms and stuff. So it's really kind of interesting that they have that as well. Let's see. The fourth point that they have is cultivate a well-equipped, diverse, and flexible and engaged workforce. I thought that was kind of cool that they had this in their strategic plan, that they want to have a workforce that is well-equipped, diverse, flexible, and engaged, that they want to encourage good careers in the IRS. I don't know anyone that works there, but I do think it is cool that they want that. And the final point was advanced data access, usability, and analytics, basically to emphasize the use of data analytics in conjunction with qualitative information to select high priority work. So the IRS really wants to take their data and use it well in order to make good decisions. And I'm going to end with the mission of the IRS, which I think is kind of cool. This is on their website. To provide America's taxpayers top quality service by helping them understand and meet their tax responsibilities and enforce the law with integrity and fairness to all. That's kind of cool because they want to do good service, help people meet their tax responsibilities, and enforce the law with integrity and fairness. Integrity and fairness are words that I really appreciate in that, especially integrity. I think that's a super crucial word. Yeah, and I think there are definitely a lot of ways that the IRS could be improved, but I think it is still a neat federal agency that I enjoyed learning about. So that's all I have for you, Professor. Have a good day.